Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here back in the video. Hope everyone's well wherever you are. Um, but yeah, I just thought I'd do a bucket list for, I don't know why I just decided to do it. But I'd love to talk about my plans for the future and things like that. But yeah, what else was I going to say? Yeah, but this year hasn't really gone according to plan, I've got to admit. And it's been a bit of a stressful year, really. I had lots of goals and dreams. I do always try and aim a bit too high, perhaps. But anywho, I know I'm probably acting like woe is me or whatever, but yeah, if I gave this year a mark out of 10, it would probably be about 2, possibly, because I had all these goals and I didn't quite manage to work them out on my 40th year as I would have liked. But anyway, it is what it is, I suppose. But anywho, here are some of the places I would like to go or things I would like to do. As I say, they call it a bucket list and all that kind of thing. So anyway, here goes. So number one, I would love to go to Italy, especially with fellow neurodiverse people with dyslexia, ADHD, and related conditions and things like that. If I can get a group together who would go traveling with me, and Anglo-Indians and other Eurasians, part Europeans and part Asians as well, I suppose, to go to, or even football fans around the world, like even Italian football fans, sorry, so people of Italian descent and that sort of thing, to go to Italy and share our ideas in blue notebooks, symbolically like blue notebooks, and keep them in blue bags and things like that, because Italy's colours are blue. So although I only support Italy for football, so I'd only want to talk about football stuff. And even if I went with like neurodiverse groups in the past, I thought like just dyslexic groups, but it could be neurodiverse groups generally, or even Italian football fans generally. I suppose we'd have to make sure that they are actually Italian football fans. I'm not sure how we could do that, but maybe ask them some facts about Italian football, ask them to name some facts about Italian football to make sure they are actually fans, perhaps, I don't know, but just to ensure they don't steal the ideas, I suppose. But now I've given them an idea. But anyway, I hope that made sense. But yeah, I'll say symbolically in blue notebooks and all that kind of thing, so drawing strategies and tactics and things like that, including on whiteboards as well. Just because it's easier to write on. But yeah, maybe in blue boards if there are some of those, but or they could be special made. But yeah, to talk about our ideas, as I say, and how neurodiverse people can help Italian football, and hopefully through that, people from neurodiverse backgrounds would hopefully be treated better in Italy, and awareness could be raised through football. As a fan of Italian football, but yeah, I'd love to travel around the country, and if what I was going to say, I nearly forgot, but if those dyslexic or neurodiverse people or Anglo-Indians wanted to go and visit parts of the country. Me personally, I'd only want to go for football. I like to talk about football and coaching. So even if they went exploring, sometimes I could be just coaching while they do that, or I'd be doing as much coaching as possible, basically, football coaching and talking about my tactics and ideas for football. But other Anglo-Indians or other Eurasians or other neurodiverse people might want to go and explore the country a bit more and that sort of thing. Secondly, I would love to go and do similar stuff at Celtic and find ways to express my ideas through green notebooks, because Celtic play in white and green. And yeah, just discuss my ideas with the club and how I hope to benefit the club, especially in terms of winning trophies, as well as the foundational work, the charitable work, philanthropic work, whatever that they do, whatever you want to call it, basically the foundation as well. But yeah, doing similar things, again, possibly with even like mixed race people and people of color generally, as well as neurodiverse people, and that sort of thing. But even like Celtic fans around the world, and I think people of color and people of Irish descent, and like gypsies and travellers, basically gypsies/travellers, and I think of any other groups, Celts, I suppose, I think should support Celtic, and it would be great if we could go to Celtic Park, to Glasgow, and discuss with the board and everyone involved in Celtic our ideas as fans and that sort of thing, how neurodiverse people could help, and even possibly mentally ill people. Like, there's a method to the madness, obviously, as long as it's in a safe environment and that sort of thing. And as I often say, I'm mad but harmless. Like, but yeah, so yeah, different groups. I would love to travel, as I say, Celtic fans, and discuss our ideas for the club. Number three, countries which I think are more free, which have less rules and less laws, more libertarian countries, and promoting libertarianism. Another group I could travel with, perhaps, are my fellow libertarians. Being a Dole-weller, you probably wouldn't expect me to be a libertarian, but for whatever reason I am, because it's just because I don't really like to force people to do things they don't like doing. Hence why I made this YouTube channel to become more independent and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd love to promote libertarianism and human rights, freedoms, personal choice, personal accountability, personal freedoms, and things like that. Number 4, also, I'd love to travel with pacifist groups to different countries and talk about like rewarding countries that don't go to war, promoting peace, discouraging war, and as I say, going to countries which have the least wars. Hopefully, if we reward them, if they get financial rewards for not going to war, like through consumerism, including tourism, which obviously will eventually lead to consumerism. Obviously, I assume that the reason why most countries love people to go to their countries, probably not just because, or even because they want them to check out those countries for pride. It's mainly because they want them to go and spend their money, I imagine. And that's a bit cynical perhaps of me, but yeah, I think if we could go to countries that go to war less, having countries like India, which don't go to war as much, I think that'd be great. Number 5, 5 countries in the world I would love to support the most would be Malaysia, India especially, Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore. I put it in that order just for one reason, which is that with my madness and my patterns, because I'm mad, but it's because like it makes an acronym which I like it to be in that order, like M.K.S. For some reason I want it to be in that order, like the first initial acronym, first initial of the acronym, if you like, starts with M, and the last one starts with S. So that's why I put it in that order. But yeah, so that could be the M.I.S. Could be the acronym. But yeah, I'd love to be that, to encourage those countries to network together as well. The reason why is because they were colonized, but also another reason is because they have large, in 4 of those 5 countries, they have large Eurasian populations with so I'd love to encourage again my fellow Eurasians especially to travel to those countries, or even mixed race people generally, and even help them with ideas to improve their security. Maybe Eurasians could even help, as I say, it's in those countries, but even outside of those countries, could come up with ideas of how they can improve security, prevent terrorism, prevent crime, limit crime, and things like that, and how those 5 countries, for instance, could work together. That's an idea which they can cooperate across the board, across each borders, I mean, and across the board, I suppose, as well, where they can prevent terrorism, cut crime, and just basically improve their countries, their way of life, their finances, economics, and things like that. Increase jobs, increase businesses and jobs, and things like that, and people's, as I say, quality of life and careers and things like that, to reward them for supporting Eurasians, and in the case of South Africa, sort of reparate them for being colonized. And the fact there was apartheid which tried to separate white people from other groups, I think people of color generally, especially mixed race, should support South Africa, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's what I could go on in more detail about that, but for this video I'm going to try and stick with that point. But yeah, if you have any questions as well, please ask me about that, why I support those countries, or anything else that you want to know. But yeah, I can post more and reply to any comments in the comment section as well. Number 6, what I call the 6, which are people of color or indigenous people. I know I've mentioned this point before, but I just briefly touch on that. I'd love for people of color to support these groups as well, generally, especially mixed race people. But indigenous people or people of color from Africa, Australasia, the Americas, including indigenous, as I say, Native Americans and that sort of thing, Asia, also especially Latin America, and again indigenous people and people of color, but also Latin America generally, as they're emerging market economies, and Ireland. And I'd love to again connect the 6 together, especially what those 5 countries I talked about, but just generally is what I call the 6, to network together. Number 7, again, like former colonies and also countries that didn't colonize others as well, perhaps like India especially. I'd love to make groups like that, and also sorry, lost my train of thought, but yeah, former colonies and emerging markets. That was it. Emerging market economies. I think it'd be great if they work together. That's hence involving Latin America, which I hope will network basically with the rest of the 6, including obviously Africa, Ireland, Asia, and that sort of thing, and empowering indigenous people, I say, like Aboriginals, Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders, and Maoris in like business and STEM and things like that, as well as Native Americans and indigenous people from all over the Americas, basically, from every possible part of the Americas. Number 8, I think it'd be great again to encourage people of colour to support these groups as well, like where our ancestry is from and things like that, which is my strange way of tackling white supremacy, I suppose. And also like honouring our ancestry by supporting like people from the Black diaspora supporting Africans and possibly even Australasians, and people from Asia supporting from Asian backgrounds, like who live in Britain and elsewhere. But I'd love for us to encourage as many people as possible, basically, to support these countries I talked about, like Malaysia, India, especially Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore, and like come up with ideas about how they can connect together and cooperate and network together. For instance, but yeah, people from the diaspora. Number 9, I would love to do as much writing as possible and have writing wherever I have permission to have writing with my hoarding and stuff like that, and also to support artists, to support poets, artists and writers from these places I talked about, like from Africa and Asia and places like that. And number 10, I'd love to support young people and the poorest 10% of all possible people. So I'd love to travel to places where poorer people are, like slums, and look at how I can help them, hopefully, or at least try to help them, including like Dalits in India, people from like slums in Kenya and around the world, including obviously South Africa, as I say, and these places I talked about supporting, and as many places as I can tour. I would love to have organised this idea and gone travelling to these countries from this year, but anyway, as soon as possible. But yeah, I have been to an Aboriginal centre when I went to Australia 5 or 6 years ago, but I'd love to go to many more, like to visit Aboriginal centres and talk to Aboriginals about what could empower them. I suppose Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders, Maoris and Native Americans going to reservations, for instance, and that sort of thing. So sorry if this video has been going on a bit too long, or went on a bit too long, but I'd love to hear what you think, constructive criticism, and hopefully positive comments as well. Always welcome. Anything you want to comment, please do comment though. And as I say, positive quotes and affirmations and things like that, always welcome as well. And I am out. Peace and love.